Welcome to the Urban Wine Club podcast. Pour a glass, sit back, and enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode at the Urban Wine Club. I'm your host, Foti, and with me is
Ari.
And once again, we have another great special guest with us. Joining us is Patrick Walsh from Provence Wine Imports. And Patrick, welcome to the program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast.
Patrick, I have to say, I love your accent. What you told me you were originally from Weymouth?
No, so I'm from. I was born in Boston, actually. I'm from Boston, and my family is really half and half. So my father is American from Boston, and my mother is from France. And I grew up most of my life. I grew up in Aix-en-Provence, so south of France, southeast of France, in Provence. So that's why, the accent, because I spent most of my life over there. But I was still, visiting back and forth my father. But I came here now 5 years ago.
Oh, cool. So you basically have the best of both worlds. You have the Boston roots and the Boston attitude with a French accent, which is the coolest thing I could think of.
Yeah, exactly.
How was the transition from France to here?
Sorry?
How was your transition from living in France and growing up in France to coming back here?
It's very. I like both countries. I like both parts, and it's very interesting actually to have the two culture because it's very different in some ways, and I think it's very complementary. So you can really have the two of them, and I think it's really. I like to spend time here, and I like to spend time in France. It's two different spirits, but I enjoy both of them, and it's in France it's really about enjoying life together with people, and that's why actually the wine is a big part in France, I think, because wine is really about sharing with people some time, and that's I think the main idea that I would have.
It's funny because I believe that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that's a universal thing for Europe, because I have many friends who are, they come here from Greece and they're like, oh, America's great and it's fun, but it's like, the lifestyle in Greece is really for us, and almost all of them want to go back to Greece, although they appreciate America and what they experience here. The lifestyle is just a little bit different in Greece and in Europe, I believe.
Yeah, the social aspect is more interactive in the European culture.
Yeah, but I really enjoy both parts of my culture, because there are some good and bad things in the French spirit too. Work is not the first thing that come in mind, for French people. I would say
it shouldn't. I truly believe it should not be the first thing on your mind.
No, but for French people, it would be like far from the first one, So, but I mean that's so. In terms of work, I mean French are not the most efficient, people, I would say, but so that's why I enjoy, working here, and I enjoy living here, but. In France, it's just a different way of life, I think, and I think that which it's interesting in here in the US, that I think the new generations coming are maybe traveling more, and maybe are getting this spirit, this way of life that we have in Europe. I can feel it, more and more with my generation and the youngest.
I completely agree with you. I believe that as well.
So, Patrick, tell us a little bit more about the fact that what even made you want to get into the wine business to start off with, let alone, you're focusing on a very niche category in today's wine world. But what was the driving factor for you to get involved?
So I started my company 4 years ago now, and just to let you know about the history of everything, I did all my studies in France. I did my studies in the business school, in entrepreneur school.
Yep.
And when I came here, I was always, so wine was always part of my, life as a good French guy.
Of course.
So we always, with my family, when we had the Sunday meal, Sunday lunch meal, even when I was very young, I always had my little drop of wine, to taste the wine of the table. So it was always part of my life, and it was always very interesting to me, and I was always passionate about it. So I learned a lot in France. I did some sommelier courses in France while I was doing my business school, and then when I came in the US for family reasons 5 years ago, and then I had an opportunity to work in a French restaurant in Boston as a sommelier.
Oh, nice.
And at the time, I didn't really know, what was on the market here in the US. So I learned that in this restaurant, what was really available on the market, and to build a wine list, in a French restaurant in the US. And so I found that, in terms of French wines and from other countries, I think we have, some very good references, some very good wines.
Definitely.
But the only thing was on, my part, my region in France, in Provence, I didn't really think that the wines that were at the time on the market were really, how can I say?
Good representation.
Good representation of that, way of living that I was telling earlier. So not really the product that we had over there, definitely. And so I wanted to start at the beginning to bring the wines that I used to have, with my friends during all my youth. And I had some, good products. I knew some wine producers in Provence as well. So I started to do that 4 years ago now. And yeah, so I did a small portfolio of wines from Provence, so mostly rosé, of course.
Yes.
And that's how I started.
So you saw basically an opportunity while working in the restaurant scene here in Boston, where there was a void for good rosé, particularly from France, and that's very clever because you said you started your importing company about 4 years ago, right?
Yes.
And I think that rosé, the category started to kind of explode just about 5, maybe 7 years ago, where this mystique about what rosé is started to continue to grow, and we started to see more and more representations of rosés coming from all over the world. And for a good part, French rosés were basically a leading category. And it's interesting that you focus just mainly, from what I've seen, in very well made rosés. And for our listening audience, and I'm sure a lot of folks who are listening had either had rosés before, have never had rosés before, or just not sure what rosé is. And there's this misconception that, or stigma, I should say, in the U.S. market still, that rosés for most consumers seem to be sweet selections when they're actually dry, right?
Yes.
Rosés are dry wines, and it's not until folks actually get a taste of it before it kind of changes their opinion, and that happens a lot at the restaurant level. And
Yes.
Now that we're living in very challenging times, and for those folks that are still curious and wondering, it's programs like ours that allows us to kind of relay that information to the listening audience and let them get educated on what's going on in the wine world. But rosés are still growing, and I think it's very commendable about what you're doing is you're focusing on high quality and value driven rosés from Provence. And
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about the actual selections. You did say that you work closely with some very great winemakers in Provence. I'm sure you have access to many more, but obviously you need to make a decision on what makes more sense and what you should bring to the U.S. market. But what are some of the selections or styles that you can let our listening audience know of what Provence Wine Imports brings to the market?
Yes, so I am on that part because I have half of my family in France. I am very lucky to be able to spend some time in Provence and a lot of time and really hit the road and go see the different wine producers, different taste a lot of wines. Just to remind about the wines, the Rosé from Provence, they are typically Rosé from Provence. They are the rosé that you're gonna see with a clear color, very salmon clear color, and on the taste they are crispy rosé, very light, dry, with a nice acidity, nice balance, nice acidity at the end. So it's very refreshing rosé. And when I started, I thought that in France the rosé has always been here. So it's a all year long wine, but really in the summer it's everybody, all friends, when you are doing a gathering with friends, everybody has their bottle of rosé, and that's what we drink.
And that's where the term rosé all day comes from, right?
Yes.
And yes, you just made an interesting point. So in Provence, and I'm sure in most parts of France and in the European wine cultures, rosé is consumed pretty much all year round. And something funny in the U.S. is that rosés are only here for a limited amount of time every year. And I'm sure there's a lot of contributing factors why that is.
Is there something you could say that originated that, or is it just something that kind of was organic and just happened?
Well, I think, and Patrick, you can add to what I'm just about to say, is that a couple of driving factors is that one is the allocation of rosé production is very, very small in a lot of wineries. And I think that based on what is being shipped over, we start to see the arrivals of the new vintage of rosés coming around the late March, early April. And then by the fall, maybe by Thanksgiving, it's like then we see the end of the inventory of rosés, and then we have to wait for the spring again for the next vintage, right? So I think one part could be the allocation or the small production levels of rosés, and then Patrick, I mean, you're drinking rosé all day in France, but in the U.S., we're starting to see more rosés available all year. Slowly, but your thoughts on the limited amount of rosés that we have access to all year?
Yes, so I think you're right about the fact that it's really about the quantities that are imported by the different importers in the US, because there are not many rosés that are made in the American soil, so there are most of we have some very interesting wines, not only in Provence but on the rosé world. The rosé is actually a very interesting wine because you have a huge panel of different tastes. You can have a lot of different tastes in rosé. It depends by from where it's from, and it depends the grape, the blend. Provence, the wine producers in Provence, they are trying to follow this line of the dry and light rosé, but you can find some even in Provence, you have some rosés, from Bandol, the Bandol rosés that are made from the Mourvèdre grape, which is a lot. The Mourvèdre is used for more for red wine. At the beginning, it's a very, tannic, a lot of tannins, full body red wine that goes very well with, some barbecue, red meat. And the Bandol area, they use a little bit of their Mourvèdre grape. They use, 30% of the Mourvèdre grape in their rosé. So these rosé from Bandol, they have a nice body. So these actually are the ones that you can really keep over the years. A nice Bandol rosé, can be kept for 5, 6, 7 years, and it would be delicious.
Whereas most rosés usually have a.
So most rosés, the technique to make a rosé is really to take the skin and the pits from the pulp.
Yep.
So really it's a wine that you can't really keep really long because the skin gives the tannins and gives the body to the wine. So a rosé in Provence would be good for 2 years.
Right.
But then you're gonna switch on more on like a full body rosé like the Bandol one that you can keep for for a long time.
So basically, rosés, what we want to say to our listening audience is, they need to be consumed, fast. Not wines that you want to typically sit on and age. Just like most white wines, the fresher they are, the better they taste.
So for the American audience, it's about when the availability is here, and consumption has to be relatively quick. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's really the consumers that are driving the importers because when the consumption will change and when people will more drink this type of wine, the rosé, as we do in France, all year long, maybe the importers will allow more space for the rosé in their portfolio, and then it's gonna change like that slowly, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think consumer trends are changing, or consumer behaviors are changing constantly year to year.
Yeah. Well, listen, we spoke about why it's kind of seasonal here, but there's also another stigma, and this stigma is that rosé is basically like for women. I love rosé, and my wife makes fun of me, and personally, I think that's racist on her part. And I want that stigma to end. Like, why do I feel that it's like women that are driving rosé? Why isn't it everybody? Because I love rosé. I'll drink rosé all the time.
Well, you need to change that stigma. Maybe you need to be the new spokesperson for rosé.
So maybe it's I don't have any answers about it. Maybe it's about the about the color, or I don't know, but
I would think so. I'm not gonna lie. I've been around, in social settings where some folks, some men, have been hesitant to hold a glass of pink wine.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to make a statement right now. But men that refuse to hold a glass of pink wine, they're just insecure about their masculinity. I will walk through the streets with rosé, and I don't care because I'm comfortable.
That means that you feel comfortable with it. Yes, exactly. But that's changing. It's I see that in more and more restaurants. I'm seeing at the bars, more males, actually sipping on rosé. I mean, it's becoming more customary. So culturally, we're changing here as well. I mean, we're following suit of the European wine culture as time is going on, and we're accepting things, we're adjusting. I think that's great. The stigmas of what you just mentioned, Ari, are slowly going away. We're becoming more adventurous drinkers. It's becoming more exciting. So I think it's fitting.
If you're out there and you refuse to have rosé because of the color, like, geez.
So does that mean that you're okay with drinking cosmopolitans?
I love cosmopolitans. The fruitier the drink, the better for me. And again, My wife is the opposite. Like she wants like scotch and whiskey and like we're opposite. But that's why I'm here to break these stigmas.
Got it.
Yeah,
Um,
and rosé, it's another type of wine. You have the white, the red, and the rosé, and the taste is different, and in the rosé itself, you can have so many different tastes that everybody can find, their own rosé that they like. You have some rosés from Pinot Noir, you have some rosés, Grenache Syrah in Provence, but you have a lot of different tastes. So it's just like reds and whites.
right.
Well, Patrick, that's exactly why it upsets me that like men would like decline to try it and to find their favorite rosé just based on something as silly as like the color of the wine. Like, get over it. Rosé is awesome. Take it from me, Foti. You had a rosé party, and you could vouch for me that I love rosé.
Ever since that changed your life. But yes. And then Patrick, another thing, we're excited that you're bringing the wines to this market, and now we have this great opportunity where we're going to be working with your portfolio, and we're very excited that we're going to be able to feature your rosés on our Urban Wine Club platform for all of our listening audience that actually can try these amazing wines, right?
Yeah. So I think that's amazing. We can. I think the ability to try the wines and maybe as you said, maybe to have a webinar and talk about the wines and have some gathering together and even with these times have some wine together. That's the whole point.
We're definitely, for our listening audiences, keep following us, and we're going to be launching some dates for some of our upcoming webinars where Patrick will be one of our special guests, where we'll be doing a rosé virtual tasting. So just keep tuned to get the information on that.
The webinar is going to be interactive. They're going to be able to speak with us, speak with you, learn. They're going to be able to interact. It's exactly like they would be in a room tasting the wine. Just they can't they can't reach out and touch you. That's the only difference. But everything else is going to be exactly the same, and we're going to make it happen. And we look forward to it.
Definitely. And Patrick, tell us a little bit, if you can, now that we're going through these challenging times in life, have you seen any changes in your business as far as what's happening with consumers? Just anything you can share with us on how this has changed with what you're doing, and are you implementing anything different and creative as well?
Yeah, so I think as you said, we are going through some challenging times, but the most important is just to adapt ourselves, to what's happening right now. I see some changes, and because most of the changing is because the restaurants are not able to open and to have people in their dining rooms.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have some clients in the retail that own wine shops, and they are seeing the business growing, and that's pretty interesting that they are very excited to bring some new product too, and I really enjoyed the past weeks developing that with some retailers. So my business was, at the beginning, I was more on the hotels and restaurants. So 70% of my clients were hotels and restaurants. So it was very challenging for me at the beginning. But these past weeks were very interesting. And the good thing that I see in America too, in the US, is that people are very open-minded here.
Yes.
So they are always looking for new products. So actually, I've been able to have a lot of new clients during the past weeks. So that's been very good on the American side of my business. And then in France, I took the time that I had to first to have some news about all the wine producers that I represent here. So that's in the usual time, I'm running around and I don't really have the time we are really talking more business, when I'm here than anything else with the wine
Right.
producers. And I took the time to have some news and to talk about different things with the wine producers and to find some new products too, to discuss with different. I have some friends who owns retail shops and restaurants in France, and we're always in contact. But we have more time right now to talk more about
Sure.
the next good wine or this new vintage coming, everything like that. So,
which is great for us because at least you keep us informed, so that in the pipeline that we have great wines coming from individuals like yourself. And you just mentioned like this change where unfortunately at one point we were dining a lot and now we can't really dine at all, and everything's been converted to home experiences, and that retail shops are thriving because now folks are actually taking that dining experience at home.
yeah.
And there's a lot of purchases at the retail level. And whereas where we like to come in now, and we're going to be offering the ability to have these experiences at home through being able to purchase wines from portfolios like yours from our our shopping cart. And we're going to put some great packages together for our folks that will include a whole maybe wine dinner experience kit. We're working on putting together wine kits that includes food products. So be assured that in one of those kits will be a Rosé wine kit with Patrick's selections, amongst other things that will be with it. So these are interesting times, and I think that folks are starting to embrace this whole new experience and are enjoying the fact that they can have great experiences at home as well. So this is also exciting for us to be able to work with individuals like yourself, Patrick, who actually you're a great advocate of bringing not just French rosés, but bringing great wine to market.
Thank you, Foti.
My pleasure. So, Patrick, can you give us a web address for those folks that might want to maybe visit your website as well, just to kind of see, about the company, the wines, and so forth? And obviously, we're going to have more information on our website as well. But is there a website that folks can log on to?
Yes. So my company is Provence Wine Imports. Very simple, and the website is provencewineimports.com. So you can see my portfolio, the wines that I bring in the US, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about some wines or any questions about French wines or anything you want.
And the other thing I'd like to add is for our listening audience, for those that live in the local area, and when I mean local, I mean Eastern Massachusetts, Boston Metro, and North Shore, South Shore. For those of you that are interested in looking at Patrick's wine selections on our Urban Wine Club shopping cart, the wines are available for even local deliveries. So if we have a service. If you live outside of that zone, we have a shipping service where we ship the wines to you as well. So for those, check out the website and look at all of our delivery areas. If you can't get to a retail shop that has any of Patrick's wines, you can get them right through our own website.
I'm ordering right now.
Oh, is that your order that I just saw coming in?
Yep.
Awesome. So yes. So definitely visit our site, visit Patrick's site, Provence Wine Imports. I just want to thank you, Patrick, for taking the time. I know it's busy time for you as well, and it's been a pleasure. And we're going to have you back on our podcast for some of our future upcoming summits.
Stay tuned for the webinar.
Yes,
and the webinar is coming
much.
soon.
Thank you very much, Foti and Ari, for the time. I really enjoyed it, and yes, I'm looking forward for the webinars.
Excellent. So as you say, au revoir.
Au revoir.